Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I hope that the day is beginning well for y'all, that you're in a good, comfortable chair with a cup of your favorite coffee. So for today, the fruit of the Spirit is. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That's what the Apostle Paul says in Galatians 5. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And so for today, the fruit of the Spirit is peace. A couple of weeks ago, the fruit of the Spirit is love. Then last week, joy. And for today, the fruit of the Spirit is peace. And how appropriate is that in the midst of all that's going on around us? When there is so much anxiety, just the anxiety in all of our households over over health concerns. Anybody that has kids that are going back to school at any level, whether it's elementary or college, any teachers, just the anxiety is palpable. As a society, we are lining up to argue with signposts. I mean, anything that one says on social media gets twisted into an argument. And so societally, we are all one half of an argument looking for the other half. And Paul says, and the fruit of the Spirit is peace. So your Hebrew lesson for today is this. Shalom. Okay, practice saying that. Shalom. Shalom is what gets translated as peace in most of the time in our English Bibles. And peace is as good a translation as you could come up with. But shalom in the Hebrew mindset is more than simply peace as we think of. Shalom in the Hebrew mindset is its completeness, its wholeness. So Paul writes this letter. He writes this letter to the Galatian church, and he writes in Greek because Greek is sort of the common language that everybody writes in and speaks in. But Paul himself is a good Hebrew. So as Paul writes this, he's writing in Greek, and the Greek word for that gets translated as peace is eirene, which is sort of serenity and tranquility. It's the absence of hostility, which is sort of where we come in, where that's sort of what we think of as peace. You're tranquil, serene. There's no conflict, and therefore there's peace. But remember, Paul in his mindset is a good Jew. Paul in his mindset is Hebrew, and he thinks Hebrew. And so as he writes the fruit of the Spirit is peace, he's thinking shalom. He's thinking that wonderful rich word that's wholeness, completeness. It's not the absence of strife, the absence of warfare, the absence of conflict. As Paul writes this, he's thinking wholeness and completeness, so that in Christ we can be complete. In Christ we can be whole, and we can be full. And that is a wonderful thing. Now, I did take Hebrew and Greek in seminary. I was only a mediocre student of Hebrew. I was just a terrible student of Greek, but I remember some of the vocabulary, and I learned to appreciate stuff, so I really appreciate this wonderful word shalom. Can we have shalom in the midst of all that's going on around us? Can we have shalom in here in the midst of all that's going on around us? I think that as a society, we probably struggle more with this idea of peace, this idea of shalom. As a society, we are too quick to equate blessings with good health or prosperity or wealth. We equate those two. And so if you're not healthy or if there's no money in the bank, well, then you're not blessed. And that's just terribly, terribly incorrect. And I think part of this stems from what is probably in my mind, the worst mistranslation that I'm aware of in the Bible. If you've got an NIV, one of the verses that is treasured is Jeremiah 29:11. And Jeremiah 29:11, and I'll read it for you, says this: "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Now, what is translated there as prosper is shalom. And just an awful, awful translation, because shalom has nothing to do with prosperity as we think of it. We read, all of us with our NIVs, we read that and we tend to think prosper in terms of how we think prosper, and that's not it. That really should be translated as plans for your peace. That's what God is saying there through Jeremiah. God's plans for us are for us to be at peace and have peace, to be complete and to be whole. The fruit of the Spirit is peace. The fruit of the Spirit is to be complete and to be whole. And we can be complete and be whole if we are filled with the Spirit and live in the Spirit, no matter what is going on all around us. So in Christ, living in the Spirit, we can enjoy peace no matter what the coronavirus is doing. We can be at peace. We can be at peace no matter what either one of the political parties are doing, no matter what our children in Washington are doing. We can be at peace. So what did Jesus say? "My peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. Not as the world gives do I give you." That's from John 14. Jesus said, "My peace I leave with you, my peace I give you." Then a couple of chapters later in John 16, Jesus said this: "I have said these things that you may have peace. For in the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world." That's Jesus talking. In the world you're going to have tribulation, but I give you peace. So in Christ we have peace and can have peace in the midst of tribulation, in the midst of all the turmoil that's going on around us. We can have peace. We can have true peace that has nothing to do with what the COVID-19 test says, or what you made on an algebra test. That has nothing to do with the amount of money in your bank, or what the crime rate is on your street. In Christ we can have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but I give you peace, and I have overcome the world. And that's what Jesus said. One of the great old hymns of the church, written by a guy named Horatio Spafford in the late 1870s, has this line, has these lines. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll. Whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. Did you get what Spafford is saying? When peace like a river attendeth my way, when peace is like a beautiful river attending your way, or when sorrows are like sea billows rolling, just imagine the breakers at the surf as a tropical storm is passing by, and you can feel the surf pounding on the shoreline. When sorrows are pounding on you like that, in any event, Spafford says, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. Yes, my friends, the word for this Wednesday is the fruit of the Spirit is peace. Have a great Wednesday and enjoy the rest of your cup of coffee.